What's the secret behind the genders in German? Is there even a secret? Why is feminism male, manliness female, and a girl neuter? That's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. I will go into every detail of how to recognize and memorize the infamous Daddy Das. Let's get started. Tag an alle, my name is Florian and I've been a German teacher for over 7 years now, and I know exactly that our 3 genders can drive learners absolutely nuts. So today I'm going to show you every trick in the book to finally nail them. But first of all, what is grammatical gender? Well, gender actually belongs to a much bigger category called noun classes. These are classes to sort your nouns into. I know, shocking. But this concept shouldn't be foreign to you because English sorts its nouns into the countable and uncountable classes. Much water, many bubbles. And gender is just another noun class. By the way, we also have countable and uncountable nouns in German, but I'll get into that in a later video. Anyway, in German we have 3 genders. Männlich, male, weiblich, female, and sächlich, neuter. That means whenever you learn a noun, you have to learn the corresponding gender attached to it. And this is conveyed by the articles in their dictionary form. Der for male, die for female, and das for neuter words. Now, I would love to tell you that gender follows a logical principle, but as you could see in my intro, it unfortunately doesn't. In fact, the gender of the most common nouns in German is unpredictable, and that can seem very daunting. So let me break everything down for you. The final goal is to memorize the gender of a word, so if there are any shortcuts, we should take them. And yes, there are some. First, let's take a look at this table. We have a bunch of endings that can predict a certain gender. Little side note, endings that have a lot of exceptions are marked with a red exclamation mark here in the table. So, for instance, if you see a word with the ending ung, it is most likely female. Die Umgebung, die Spannung, die Erinnerung. However, please keep in mind that for almost all endings there are some exceptions. Der Sprung, for example, is male even though it ends in ung. Nonetheless, it's still time efficient and effective to memorize these endings, since the chance to get an irregular gender here is pretty low. And regarding the example with Sprung, this word and all of its derivatives, Vorsprung, Ursprung, are always male. By the way, if you take a look at these 3 endings, Ismus, Keit, and Chen, the reasoning behind der Feminismus, die Männlichkeit, and das Mädchen becomes a little bit more apparent. Just another indicator of why grammatical gender has nothing to do with the associated gender of the word. Now let's cover some big groups that all use the same article. All the following words are male. Male human beings, male professions, animals with a separate male word, excluding ones like die Giraffe or das Krokodil, days of the week, months and seasons, cardinal directions, rocks and minerals, and verb nominalizations that end in er. Then we have all the groups with female nouns. Female human beings, well, except for das Mädchen, female professions, animals with a separate female word, numbers, and trees that don't end in Baum. And finally, all neuter words, colors, letters of the alphabet, fractions, verb infinitive nominalizations, adjective nominalizations, and imported English words that end in ing. Alright, that has been quite a lot of information already, but what if you want to know the gender of a word that doesn't fit into any of these categories, like picture or water? Well, it's a bit of a letdown, but you just have to know. Take these 3 nouns for example. Der Sand, sand, die Wand, wall, and das Land, country. All of them end in and only the first letter changes, yet they still have different genders. I mean, with some nouns, even Germans haven't decided what gender to use. Der oder das Virus, der oder das Plastik, der oder die Krake. So take all of this with a grain of salt. Okay, we've covered single nouns so far, but what do you do if you have a compound noun? I'm sure you've seen them online in various memes because they are one of the things German is most notorious for. I'll make it short and painless, we don't separate our compound nouns. This is the reason you get words like Nahrungsergänzungsmittel, Fußbodenschleifmaschinenverleih, and Auslandskrankenversicherungsbestätigung. Okay, they're not always that extreme. Glastisch is also a compound noun, but here's the important thing. The gender is always determined by the last word in the compound. So this is neuter because of das Mittel. Here we have der Verleih, and this monstrosity is female, die Bestätigung. Oh, and der Tisch. I think I've covered almost all information there is how to predict or not predict the gender of a noun. So it's time to transition to the next part, which is, what is the best way to memorize the gender of a noun? You could of course learn it by heart, but that doesn't suit everybody, so here are some interesting methods you can use to make that process a bit more enjoyable. Method number 1, associations. Come up with some idea for each gender that you will associate that gender with. For example, let's say that all male nouns are covered in snow. Female nouns are hot or melting, and neuter ones explode. This is actually how one of my students memorized all the genders, pretty much to perfection. Let's try it out. Der Stuhl, der Baum, der Stein. Die Hand, die Bank, die Tasse. Das Haus, das Glas, das Kind.
Hey, yo, what?
Yeah, this method can be kinda weird and it has the nasty side effect of illogical combinations occurring. Summer in German is male, so you have to be a bit more creative to make that work. Although you could always come up with different associations. Method number 2, color coding. Pick a color for each gender and always use that color when writing the noun. This is what I've been doing over the course of the video to make it more approachable. The good thing is, this method works digitally and on paper if you have some colored markers. And with time and repetition, these colors will burn themselves into your brain and you might see them as you speak, which sounds kinda cool. Alright, let's talk about another very important difference between German and English. In both languages, gender can be expressed by personal pronouns. In English, he, she, it. In German, er, sie, es. But while English uses he for men, she for women, and it for everything else, German refers back to a noun by its corresponding gender. Let's use the following sentence as an example. I bought a cup and broke it the same day. In English, we have to use the pronoun it to refer back to the cup. But if we translate that sentence to German, we get Ich habe eine Tasse gekauft und sie am selben Tag zerbrochen. You might have noticed that I didn't say es, but sie. That's because a cup is female in German, die Tasse, and we have to refer back to her with her corresponding gender. This idea seems incredibly weird, but you'll get used to her. Now, one last thing that is important to know about gender in German. There are a bunch of words that can have multiple genders in German, and by swapping the gender in front of them, you completely change their meaning. Here are some common ones. Der See, die See. Der Schild, das Schild. Der Kiefer, die Kiefer. Der Leiter, die Leiter. Der Erbe, das Erbe. Die Steuer, das Steuer. There is even a word that can have all three genders. Der Band, volume or tome. Die Band, from English band, and das Band, ribbon or tape. Keep that in mind while learning the noun's gender. And that brings us to the end of this lesson. If there's anything unclear, always feel free to drop a comment. And if you want to help this channel out, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more German. Haut rein!